Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Byrd, founder of Acquisition Conference, and also this podcast called the Acquisition IQ Network. We're joined here with Daniel Allgaier. I'm excited to hear more about what you're doing. And let me just take a second here. I'm going to read your bio. This thing is extensive. Daniel Allgaier is a CFP and is the founder of Equity Comp FP and author of Take Charge of Your Equity Comp with over 8 years of experience specializing in helping professionals navigate stock options, RSUs, ESPPs, and other equity compensation strategies to maximize their wealth and minimize their taxes.
Yeah.
As a business owner, we know this is super important, and that's exactly why we have you today on the podcast. Explain what's an RSU and an ESPP.
Yeah, so it's common that companies will set up and they'll carve out part of their capital to be shares, either a public or a private company. They'll carve those out and they'll use that as a compensation for either senior leadership or other key employees.
Yeah.
So aside from a base salary, they'll have additional shares in the company.
Okay.
So it gives them the incentive to make the company better. It also gives them some skin in the game. So essentially what they do is they have, say, a lump of shares, we'll say 1,000, and they are given a vesting schedule. Let's say they get 25% of those shares over a 4-year period. So after the first year, they're going to have ownership of 250 of those shares. At the second year, they're going to have 500 total shares. At the third year, 750. And the fourth year, the full 1,000. Now, they can make choices along the way what they do with that as far as selling, holding, how to manage the taxes and prepare for that. So
Yeah.
in short, that's the RSUs.
Well, I know that, when I was the founder of a technology company, we had to cut it up. We actually cut it up into 100 million shares, which is quite a bit. But we were looking for the long term to where we could create the per share cost at something super, super small. And it was also something where it's a game. It's like you got to be extremely strategic as to how you cut up your shares, because it becomes an incentive chain or a bargaining chip to be able to have somebody that works with your corporation. You know what I mean? I'm sure you've probably seen that before.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Somebody come in and the allure is probably the ecosystem of the business, the growth, that new startup building that's attractive to a certain person.
Yeah.
He or she wants to be in something fast paced, that's moving, that's changing. We'll call it changing the world. But then there's also the incentive on the backside to say, hey, look, we've got this chunk of shares that could ultimately change your future, and not just your future, but your family's future. I mean, that's not happening to everybody, but you work hard enough within a company and the value goes up substantially, and now your shares that were, let's say, $1, are now $10 to $20. That adds a lot to your net worth overall.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and again, as the CEO of a company, and I know there's many of you out there, this specific topic is extremely important. As you go from an LLC into a C Corp or S Corp, and then you start adding these legal structures that you must need to know to be able to expand far beyond, just a limited partnership or a partnership, which you've probably seen multiple times.
Yeah, you start playing like the big boy game, right? You transition from, hey, is this going to work, to holy crap, we're riding the roller coaster.
Well, and immediately once you add an option that you can expand via options, in essence, then you immediately expand the capabilities of the growth of your company, because then you can take on funds.
Yep.
Not to say you can't take on funds, as an LLC, but it's just a little bit different. So share with us why you got started in this industry. I think it's important for people to know your story and your why as well.
Yeah. So kind of going back, it was, it took me a while to kind of find where I wanted to be and come to the financial advisor side. I knew I wanted to be somewhere that was a person that was helping somebody kind of like their point of contact, but the professional in their life, helping them make the decisions.
Yeah.
I watched a family business grow around for 75 plus years and then just was sold off. And the concept of legacy was really kind of built in me, because I watched my great grandfather work there. I watched my grandma, and then the business was just gone one day. And being here in the valley, there's a lot of these tech startups that come along, and the equity that's created there, and the ability for somebody to put time and effort in there and to then create a legacy outside of that was something that's really drawn to me. Uh, In short, of just saying, hey, it's a problem people have, and the thought of taking action is somewhat could be debilitating. So, helping somebody to make those choices was really the ultimate driver of saying, hey, look, let's guide you through the process of, again, maximizing this benefit, minimizing your tax impact, and then creating a legacy for you and your family.
Well, as the founders out there, a lot of times it's almost front heavy with the amount of excitement that one has to be able to grow something, but then there's also, it seems like you have the excitement on the back end as well to make sure that people are properly structured to where you can help them actually achieve the goals and dreams that they have. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that lines up pretty well. I feel like I'm a little bit different in the grand scheme of like the traditional advisor, right?
Okay.
I don't feel like I think the broader market, the advisor, the purpose of an advisor comes when somebody's latter years of life, when they're hitting that retirement. They have worked at a job for 30 years. I've got a savings. I'm ready to not work anymore. Can I survive? Whereas the effort and the time that I spend with clients is more on the front end,
Okay.
early in the side of that growing side, when maybe there's not a lot of money, maybe there's not a lot of net worth
Okay.
in the bank account. But hey, when we get to that 30 years down the road, where do we want to be? Or even 10 years down the road, where do we want to be? So let's start building that legacy. It's a big thing that I think about quite a bit, is what is somebody's legacy? And that's different for everybody. But as they grow through this process of putting in that time and then creating value and then having the ability to build a legacy, that's where I want to be able to help give them the best advice. Because I worked and I saw people that had their cake already baked. Those people that were hitting retirement, or those older ones. I'm like, there's only so many ways we can cut this up.
Yeah.
If you had worked with somebody in the earlier stages, how much different would it be for you then?
Yeah. It's interesting because we're talking about end stages, and obviously there's tax strategy and preparation that has to be done there too, maybe post-exit, or in essence creating the value within a company. I like your approach to having more of a proactive, taking a strategic approach, as opposed to, the one presents the education, or presents whatever they have done, and then you as the professional just observes, reports, and gives it back. And I don't like personally working with those type of individuals, because we're at a point where there's strategic growth that must happen, and it's not just we need to give it to somebody who's just going to go over what's already been done. We want to strategize with people that are more of a partner, and that's what it sounds like you are.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole, like, for my early 20s, I spent about 6 years coaching soccer, and I didn't have a kid playing soccer, and I coached for about 6 years, and that's like that time spending just coaching and developing really, I think, translated well into what I do now. I don't know if coach is the right word, but I guess it is, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a business coach with someone that's going to talk to you about taxes and money and give you advice, professionally.
Yes.
But walking hand in hand, saying, hey, look, what your situation is, Nathan, and the person next to you are going to be totally different. And what's important to you and where you want to take this is totally different than the next person. And it's, it's doable.
Yeah.
The ability of having the ownership of a business gives you that flexibility and that autonomy to say, hey, what direction do you want to take? And I'm not squirreled into a certain path, right?
Yeah,
I'm not squirreled into like, hey, we're going route A or B. It's like, we'll start, and then the one thing that's going to happen, and I can guarantee that, is that there's going to be change.
Yeah. Change.
Right? Something's going to change, right? You're going to make a goal or an objective, and then something's going to happen between now and then. So the ability to pivot, the ability to say, hey, look, we're going to shift or something, I think it's a real powerful thing, to knowing that you have somebody in your corner that can come in and pick things up with you and move forward.
Let's talk tactics and specific strategies now. I like to get into the weeds of exactly how you can help your clients. You also have a book here, which we'll talk about. And I guess my question to you is why does somebody come to you? And then how do you typically take them through the process of education and then implementation?
So I guess going to the first one, who would come to me is somebody that does have an equity comp strategy and they want to, again, bring in a professional to help them make sure they're doing the best possible. Now, my business doesn't require that there's a minimum number of assets, right? If that's the case of some, but look, we can work together and help navigate their current situation, regardless of, net worth size.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you help them structure the actual comp plan?
So,
or
like
are
the
you
actual
just
businesses,
managing the employee or the stock options? Do you just manage it, or are you helping to strategically create it?
I have not strategically creating it. So,
Okay.
like going in and working with the companies to say how many shares are going to be divvied out or built out. No, that's not something.
Okay.
Mine would be once that's already taken place. Then we'd come in and say, hey, of the allocated shares that you have or the options that you have available to you, what's the best course of action? So first, we're going to essentially pop open the hood and see what's there. We're going to build out everything that's in your current financial picture, your cash flow. What's the income coming in from sources? What does that look like as far as just wages? If there's W-2 income, if there's additional side hustle, side work, and then what does it look like as far as income created from different stock options that you have? So knowing how much in reality you're going to be making or taxed on each year is where we're going to look at and spend a lot of the time. So,
Okay.
I hate for people to go into the tax time and have a surprise when it comes to that. So looking at everything that's in their picture, in their
Financial
financial
basically.
picture, and saying, hey, look, this is where we want to strategically do this. Now, if we take certain actions, how do we then take some chips off the table as far as moving away from company stock into something different, right? So how do we strategically move shares of your vested RSUs to shares in something different?
What
or-
other options are presented when you say something different?
So it'd be like going into like an S&P 500, like an index fund. I'm not a stock picker, right? I'm like a crock pot when it comes to that. Let's construct a diversified portfolio and set it up there. Now, again, when you're working with somebody that's maybe in the building phase and they have faith and belief in their company, they might not want to diversify away because they're like, hey, look, we're on a trajectory that is going to just blow up. And that's fine. I understand that. But we also need to understand the risk component of that. What if it doesn't? Right? There's that potential. So generally, you're going to get the conversation is going to be, hey, let's diversify and not have a concentrated position of maybe more than 10% traditionally. Now, if we're working and looking at somebody that's in a company and they want to hold a higher amount, that's fine. But when we diversify away into a diversified portfolio, we're looking at then of putting that into like something probably like the S&P 500. And you're thinking about this is like you're then taking it from a single company and putting it towards 500 of the best companies available domestically. So you get that diversification when it comes there. So
So somebody comes to you, they've got obviously questions about diversification, and then as far as the money that's being created within the company, you're helping to route that money to strategic areas that will help them increase their overall net worth
or their goals, right? So let's
Okay,
say
yeah.
they've got a couple kids and they're like, hey, we want to fund college.
Yeah.
What's the best way to do that?
Okay.
Hey, we want to take some chips off the table because we would like to one day start a nonprofit or a scholarship fund.
Okay.
Or we do want to say put some money aside so that way when we have the chance, we want to be able to invest in another business or start another business.
Okay.
So it looks at, what's the objective or what's the best use of the money?
Yeah.
Right? Where do we want to put it and allocate it for?
Strategic financial planning. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's go into your book here. You've got Take Charge of Your Equity Comp, and I'd like to, maybe go over some of the words of wisdom and some of the nuggets that you have placed into that book based on your experience, because of course, I'm sure you've worked with many clients and you're starting to see trends. What trends have you seen from clients that have come into your office with difficulties, and then how have you been able to create a solution?
I think the biggest part is the question that comes up is, one of the main questions I ask somebody is, why is money important to you?
It's good.
You sit on that and you think about it and you say, you're going to get some common answers, security, safety. Well, what's important about safety? what's important about security. Growing up, we didn't have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Had free lunch. I was a kid at school that had free
Yeah.
lunch. Something, right? Well, why was it hard to get free lunch? Well, because it wasn't like the other kids, right? So we're gonna peel back the layers of putting purpose to your money. So there's a part in the book that talks about your why, because you'll build up, and generally the people with equity comp that have a sizable package have a very sizable as well kind of household income.
Mm-hmm.
When they look at that and they say, hey, are we going to be playing offense or defense?
True.
And if we're in that defensive mindset of like, hey, let me just squirrel this all away, I think we're losing. I don't think we're going to ultimately be as good as we can. Now, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay if you squirrel away a bunch of money. But we look at this and say, hey, what's most important to you about money? What do you want to do with it? Do you want to build and fund your kid's college? Maybe, maybe not. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me if you pay for your kid's college or not. But what is the purpose of your money, and what do you want it to do for you? So peeling back that lane, have that first question, because once you can answer and understand why you're taking action with your money, you can remove the emotional side of money.
True.
Because if you're married or a partner, there's ever a conversation about money, you can feel it in your chest.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh shoot, we talk about a budget, right?
Yeah,
we talk about our money goals, and people get nervous about that. So if we can say, hey, look, we're doing X, Y, and Z because you said that money was very scarce when you grew up. Yes. And you don't ever want you or your kids to feel that again. So we're going to create that safety net for you.
So there's a portion of there that's mindset, because there's also, whether you come from an affluent family or you come from a family that had less than, there's always conversations around money. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's imperative that we build a strong relationship with money and how it can help either be a catalyst to positive change, mm-hmm. or how it can destroy families or destroy you, based on various things like greed, power, and all these aggressive sides to money. But there's also this philanthropic endeavor. We can hire individuals, we can pay for vendors, or pay for employees, and it's really a different shift in your perspective.
And it's not in the book, but there's 5 things that I believe are more important than finances. So one is your relationships, mm-hmm. Your spouse, your kids, your family, your friends, relationships. One's your spirituality, mm-hmm. so your belief in a higher power, whatever it may be. One's your health, right? If you don't have health, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Mm-hmm. One is also to your experiences. So what are you doing with those that are most important to you? Are you going on vacations? Are you spending time with them? Are you working late at night and sacrificing putting your kids to bed?
True.
And the last one there would be your personal development.
Yeah.
So if you can nail those 5, I think that's the key part of where coming in and working together. Say, hey, look, we're going to talk about your money side, but I don't believe your money is the most important. I believe your relationships, your spirituality, your health, your experiences, and your personal growth are going to be far more important. And we'll make sure your money's taken care of so that you can focus on those more important things.
Yeah, we've seen that it's just a byproduct of consistent action over the course of time. In essence, is what and how you can accumulate mm-hmm. value. You know, and of course you need to be strategic at what lanes that you choose. But So what else you got in that book?
There's some strategies now.
This, you don't have to tell us all about the book, right? Because we want people to get the book.
People can pick it up. Yeah. So this is a book that would work for somebody just out of college getting hired. Their first equity comp package to a senior executive that has a multi 7-figure equity comp package. It just breaks it down all in there. So again, getting this in the understanding, hey, what are the ins and outs of RSUs, ISOs, employee stock purchase plans, and non-qualified stock options? What do those look like? What are the nuts and bolts behind that? What are the tax impacts of those? How do those actually work? Okay. And the illustrations were done by myself, mm-hmm. so they're very elementary. They're very basic. They should be easy to understand. Nothing fancy with the illustrations. So there's understanding the tax part of it. What does that look like as far as the tax impact of receiving these stock options? What about when vesting? what about if when I sell, how does that impact my tax wise? And then looking at diversifying that away. Like I said, we go through the equity comp blueprint, and that's what is identifying, again, what I said, identifying what you have as far as the equity comp package, looking over the tax components when it comes to that, and then diversifying and fulfilling that into
I've
something.
got something for us right here, right now. I'm gonna be someone who is buying companies right now.
Mhm.
Okay, that's kind of what we're talking about. Acquisition conference. That's what we're doing on our side. And what we're doing is you can purchase or you can receive based on your equity that you put into a company. You can receive options,
Mhm.
right? So would that be the person that you're talking to help them identify or understand that
Yeah.
portion? So because some people, they consult for equity, they'll purchase the equity of a company, right? Which then is typically on their cap table.
Mm-hmm.
So is that,
Yeah.
people that you're working with?
Yeah, we could definitely talk about that. Look at that. So, you look at the business cap table.
Yeah.
You're doing an evaluation to make sure you understand that, but then this is going to tying that into your personal cap table.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Right. So we'll tie those and we'll marry those two together. So what's the value of those business? What does that look like over a period of time?
Yeah.
And how does that impact your overall, net worth?
Interesting.
It might be illiquid at a point in time because you can't, go to the company and say, hey, cash me out.
Yes.
But then what does that look like over in the future, and how does that go from there? So
That's so important because look, we've got a lot of people that watch this. They may be acquiring companies, right? Acquisitions, growth through acquisition, or they're raising a fund to then acquire, portions of a company. They don't have to acquire the whole thing, but yet they're going to be awarded or given basically stocks. So
yeah, and that's
know
why,
about that.
like I say, with the kind of the financial advisory is kind of a blanket statement, right? Everyone kind of looks at that. There's the bank or credit union, talk to the advisor there, right? But this is why I chose to be the way I am and set up. Is like, hey, look, I don't need to take on assets to be able to give you the best advice.
True.
Right? Because it shouldn't be contingent on how much money you have, especially if you're somebody that's looking to say, hey, look, I want my money to be active in a business. I want to take that money from one business, I want to roll it to another. I want to put forth and purchase another business because that's what keeps me going, right? It's a type of person that's very proactive in what they do, but they're still wanting good advice.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I create a shield too. I'm sure you see this all the time, right? Like the holdings company is not you; it's just some entity, and then that acquires other companies, and then it's a whole combobulated chart in essence that needs to be created.
Yeah.
It's like this waterfall effect. And I'm sure you probably see it all the time when you're whiteboarding.
Yeah, when it's like when you look at the movies and there's the detective scene and they've got the strings running everywhere.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that feel like that in this position.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, we're excited to obviously have you at Acquisition Conference, and we're thankful for your partnership as someone who's going to have a booth there, and then also helping us push it forward. And obviously share your knowledge of what it is you're really taking a stand for and placing your flag as someone who's going to really understand this, but also help other people. And I'm sure you're probably deep in understanding and increasing your knowledge in this space too. How would you suggest that somebody would continue to increase their overall knowledge in this space?
On the equity comp side?
Yeah, and just like stocks and whatnot. Obviously, they can come to you as well, but are there any other resources or tools?
Yeah, there's quite a bit out there. I'm a consumer of books. That's why I wrote a book. So, but there's quite a bit out there. It's hard to say direct you to one person because the ones I follow are pretty industry specific. But there's people out there that would put out good information. You always got to kind of look back and see where the information's coming from and what the person's objective is. There's often the sense of like, hey, look, we're pushing you down a certain path and creating a problem that you think you have to put you into a certain product or feature.
Okay, yeah. So just be cognizant of what the incentive is from those that are providing you the value.
Yeah, and people can say anything they want online. It's really those that have the actual designations or a legal requirement.
Yes.
To say that. I hate using the word fiduciary because I think it's so stupid that you have to say, oh, I'm a fiduciary. It'd be like a realtor saying that, oh, here, you want to buy a house? Guess what? It has sinks.
Yeah.
There's indoor plumbing. Like,
Yeah.
everybody
like,
has
duh.
indoor plumbing. Duh.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's the bare minimum. The
Okay.
fact that it has to be, like, stated that you're going to do the best for your clients,
Okay.
that shouldn't be anywhere you plant your flag.
Yeah. Well, and
I
it's
am
not-
a fiduciary. I mean,
Yeah.
I follow that standard, but you're not going to find anywhere on my
Yeah,
website
but I don't need to tell you like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do a good job. It's like that's just a part of who you are.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And that's good.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
again, thanks a lot for joining us today on the Acquisition IQ podcast. And guys, if you like today's episode, you want to learn more, make sure to follow us on YouTube. We got Acquisition IQ on YouTube as well. How do people get a hold of you, and how can we best support you as a community?
So you go to the website, Equity Comp FP.
Okay.
You can reach out to me there. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
You can reach me there. Daniel Allgaier.
Okay.
There on LinkedIn, and so.
Yeah, at the bottom of this, in the YouTube description, we'll place his website and a way that you can go get the Equity Comp book here.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, guys, thanks a lot for watching today. We look forward to continuing to produce these value-driven podcasts all around the acquisition of companies, the value creation within the company, the team and culture and integration. And we've got the Acquisition IQ Network that has just arrived, and we're excited to be able to place that link as well below in the group. So if you're a small business owner, or if you're a business owner investor and you want to be a part of a private group that only talks about this specific topic of value creation, business creation, the sell of a business, all the tax implications, all the strategies, then just go to acquisitioniq.co. And we will see you there. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.